welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So as you can see, the chives have got quite sort of, I don't know, they've gone all sort of wilted and all the rest of it, and these sort of bits here have gone all dry. So what I'm going to do is just chop them down to the ground and give them a really good watering, and then we should get some fresh growth coming through in the near future. Okay, so now I've got this bit tidied out, I'm going to be putting the carrots in here. It may seem a little bit late, but what I'm going to do is put carrots in here, and they'll be good for basically for Christmas time. So what I'm going to do is quickly get this dug over. Okay, so now I've got the soil broken down. It's really important when you're growing carrots and other sort of root vegetables that the ground is broken up. You know, you don't want any lumps or any bits like that. So I've broken this up as best I possibly can. And for those who have not seen this before, basically with carrots you've got one real main problem certainly in the UK, and we have this thing called carrot root fly. And what it is, it's a really small fly, and it's attracted to carrots, and obviously what it will do is it will lay eggs and stuff in the side of the carrot, and those little sort of bugs that, or the sort of the worms that come from there, will eat into the carrot and basically destroy your crop. Now they're only attracted to carrots once you've started to pick them, because basically they basically detect where the carrots are by the smell of the carrots. So if you plant a load of carrots, what you'll find is you'll have no problem at all until you start digging some of them out. As soon as you start digging some of them out, you disturb the roots, then the flies can smell where the carrots are, and then the flies will move in and lay their eggs, and then they'll start to eat the carrots for you. So the one thing with carrot root fly is they can't fly above 18 inches off the floor. So what I've got here is a construction where I've got sort of slabs which are they're basically 3-foot slabs which are sunk into the ground, obviously upright, and I've got some metal just supporting the top at the front there. But basically what I've done is I've put all these slabs together, and they're not quite as well sealed as they were, to be honest with you. As you can see there, what I did is I went round and sealed it with some silicone, but as you can see there's a little bit of an edge there. A bit of a gap where they could potentially get through. So what I will do in the next few weeks is just go around and just seal them up. As you can see, this one here is sealed, just there. But what I'll do is I'll go back around and I'll just seal them up again, so no sort of flies get in that. So onto the carrots. Basically, what I've done is dug all this over, and I've gone down about a foot, at least a spade's depth, to loosen all the soil up. And I've broken the soil. I've dug it over a few times, and broken it all up into a nice fine tilt, raked it all level, and now I'm ready to put the carrots in there. Now in all honesty, what I should have been doing is doing this around a month ago, so I am slightly late, but all being well, they should grow in time for Christmas. And it's exactly the same method irrespective of when you're planting your carrots. You can do this exact same thing in the spring, or sort of later on in the year or wherever, to get a succession of crops. So I'm growing 3 different types in here. This one's from Morgan and Thomas, and it's basically a trial one. I think it's quite a new one, and this is called Cosmic Purple, and it's kind of purple on the outside, and it's like a sort of carroty, orangey yellow colour on the inside. The next one is this one, which is Purple Haze, which is an F1 hybrid. I've grown this for quite a few years now, and this is quite a nice carrot. This is again Morgan and Thomas, Thompson and Morgan, and these are really nice carrots. I can't recommend these enough. They are slightly more expensive. These were sort of £2.89. I don't know if you can see that at the top there, but these are really good carrots to grow. And the way I always think of it is carrots are quite cheap in the shops to buy. If you are going to grow carrots, you may as well grow what you can't buy in the shop. So I'll buy the novelty type carrots because you can buy carrots quite cheaply in the shop anyway. And the third type is this Rainbow. This is by Sutton's Seed. Again, these are £1.69, so they're not so expensive. You know, these are quite big carrots, typically quite big, and you get this rainbow of orange, yellow, and sort of white carrots. Now, carrots aren't naturally orange. They were bred to be that way in mainland Europe to celebrate. I can't remember which country it is now. It's the one with the orange flag. But anyway, so carrots are, you know, by nature they're kind of purple and white and possibly yellow, and basically the orange variety that we're all used to, they were kind of sort of bred to be that way, if you like. So these are, even though these are kind of sort of novelty type carrots, these are actually more sort of natural, and because of that, these tend to be quite sort of stronger growing and sort of less susceptible to any problems, to be honest with you. Well, that's what I found anyway. So what I'm going to do is these need to be planted around ½ an inch down. So what I'm going to do is I'm planted them a foot apart, the rows, so I'm going to have 6 rows in here, and I'm basically going to run the rows this way, and all I'm going to do is just run my finger down like that into the ground, which I'll show you in a moment, and make a drill about ½ an inch deep, sprinkle the seed into the drill, and then just basically crumble some soil over the top of them, give them a good watering, and then all I need to do then is basically just make sure they're watered for the next few weeks until they've got themselves established, and then I'll just give them a little bit of water if it gets really dry, you know, to save the, you know, to stop the ground from sort of baking and getting quite hard, because that's what you want to avoid. But really with carrots, just like parsnips, what you want to do is not water them too much after they've got established, because what you want the carrot to do is to send its tapping root down to get the water itself from, you know, like a foot or so down, so you get nice long straight carrots. So of this soil in here, just another few pointers. With carrots, what you don't want to do is put fresh muck in the ground or anything like that, because that will encourage the carrots to split, and, you know, into forks. So this ground here, even though it has had muck sort of 2 years ago, when the soil wasn't here, it was actually in the main side of the plot. What I've done is I've waited to have, you know, like a season or so with potatoes and that, and then I've transferred the soil into here, so there's no, you know, sort of fresh muck in here. And also what I've also done is got rid of at least the majority of the stones, because that's something else that'll make your carrots split. So all that said, what I'll do now is I'll just show you putting the seed in. Okay, so what I normally do is only put a stick at one end, because these are quite short rows, they're only kind of 3 or 4 foot long, so it's just an indication of where the carrots are, so when I'm weeding, you know, I know where to expect to see the carrot plants. So as I say, this ground's nice and broken up, you know, it's nice and loose and stuff like that, you know, and there's no sort of lumps like that. So I'm just quickly checking again where the row's going to go, just to make sure that there's no sort of lumps or stones or anything like that. So that all seems pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is just very quickly, just by getting the edge of my hand like this, I'm just running that down like that, and you might need to do it a couple of times like that, just to make the hole. And what I tend to do is make it slightly deep, and then I'll just crumble some bits into the bottom to make sure that the seeds are in contact with the earth. Right, as soon as I've done that, then I can get the seeds out. So we'll start with these Sutton ones. These are the sort of multicoloured. They're called F1 Rainbow. and in here you get sort of 190 seeds. So even though I've got 2 packets of these, I'm unlikely to use both packets. So I think I'll probably do 2 rows of each type. But the carrot seeds are quite sort of small, they're not very big seeds. They look a little bit like grass seed, to be honest with you. If you've ever grassed a lawn, the seeds look a little bit like that, so I'll just show you what they look like. And down this row here I'm only going to probably need probably about 50 seeds or so. And that's what the seeds look like. Okay, so they're like small sort of look like small fennel seeds, if you know what fennel looks like. So all I'm doing now is just sprinkling the seed along like that, and I'm being reasonably generous with the seed, because what you will do is as soon as these have come up, what you'll do is tend to thin them out afterward. So dependent on how the germination rate is. Now this time of year the germination should be really good, yeah, because it's nice and warm, and you know, the seeds to germinate quite easily whilst it's like this. So all I'm doing now is getting some lumps of dirt like that, and just sort of crumbling them up in my hand, and making sure that all of the seeds are covered. And what I tend to do is leave a slight indentation in the ground, which is another indication to me where the row is. So when I'm watering as well, the water tends to go into the groove where the seeds are, rather than sort of all around and watering you know, potential ground. Because what you want to do is target the watering where the seeds are, rather than sort of watering everything, because then you're only just encouraging weeds to grow. So now I've done that, what I'm going to do is just with the side of my hand like that, sort of making a sort of slight fist, I'm just going to gently push that down. And basically what I'm doing now is just forcing any air pockets out to make sure that the seeds are in contact with the earth. Now all I need to do is repeat that again with the other rows. So the next row will be kind of here. So that'll be the next row there. So I'll just basically make sure there's no lumps or anything in here again, and then I'll put some more of that seed down there, and then continue. And what I'll do is I'll put the rest of the seed in. They all look the same, irrespective of what the variety is. The seeds. So what I'll do is I'll put the rest of the seeds in. As soon as I've done that, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so there are the 4 rows in. So these first 2 rows here, I've just put the nameplate between the 2. So that's F1 Rainbow, and then we've got Purple Haze in these 2 rows here, and then the trial pack, which is a new variety called Cosmic Purple, I've put in these 2 rows here. Now I must say the seeds were identical, all but the sort of colour of them was the changing factor, basically. But all I'm going to do now is I've just got the watering can with the rows on, and just to start them off, all I'm going to do is not sort of drown them too much. Then you find that if you make this sort of indention with your hand, can you see how the water is kind of going into the groove or whatever that I've made with my hand, and that basically means that the seeds will be getting, you know, the lion's share of the water. Obviously, as the plants start to grow, you know, you can water these with just the watering can on its own. But most certainly for the first few weeks, what I would suggest you do until the seeds get established, I'd most certainly water it with the rows. And I'll be watering these probably at least every other day, depending on the weather. If it gets really hot, I'll be watering sort of in the evening. Obviously, I'm kind of about midday at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll water these in the evening, sort of every other day. If it does get really dry, I'll give them a little bit extra. But that's the carrots in for Christmas. Okay, I just want to do some of the comments that have come over in the last week or so. The first one comes from April Kerr, and she was saying that she's put a load of sunflowers in that she brought the seed from her last house, and even though the ones that she had last year were kind of 6 foot tall, the ones that she's had this year are 3 foot. And basically, she was saying, "Have you got any ideas what this is?" To be honest with you, in all honesty, I think it's the weather. I mean, we've had quite sort of unusual weather this year. It has been sort of dry, wet periods, and it's been quite hot and it's been quite cold in the evening. So to be honest with you, depending on where you are, I think you're up north, I think you're in Scotland, because you're having such a cold sort of summer, I would imagine that it's the weather that's caused the sunflowers not to be quite as big as you would perhaps liked. So I don't think there's a lot you can do, to be honest with you, but I think it's the weather basically. The next one comes from Teresa H, and she was saying the tomatoes, and it was all about the tomato that I took out from this side last week, and you could see that it kind of rotted off at the bottom, and she was saying that she'd had something similar. Now Teresa's I'm not quite sure where Teresa is. I think she's in a hot climate somewhere. I suspect it's America, but she's saying she's got sort of 48 degrees centigrade at the moment, which is like really hot. And she was saying that her tomatoes suffered. They had a lot of rain for 3 weeks, and her tomatoes suffered quite a bit. And she was also saying that her cucumbers looked similar to mine. You know, the leaves are sort of going yellow and brown, sort of shriveling up and stuff like that. And she was saying that basically she moved her cucumbers underneath her pagoda into the shade, and now they're quite green and you know, sort of healthy looking. Now I'm a little bit stuck in here, to be honest with you, because obviously I need the sunlight to ripen the tomatoes, but I also want to try and keep the cucumbers as shaded as possible. So I'm reasonably sure that it is the weather. Reason being is I've had a couple of comments from Tony's Allotment and also Brian Aubrey, thank you very much, and they were saying that it's possibly that we need some magnesium or manganese in the soil to you know, sort of help the cucumbers along. Now I've got a couple of branches that have kind of gone around the bottom here and around the bottom there, and those leaves are quite green, and you know, they look really healthy. It's the ones that are going up that are getting all the sunlight that are sort of tending to go you know, sort of brown and shriveled. So what I'm going to do is get some Epsom salts anyway and put them down into the soil, you know, just to be sure. But I'm pretty sure it's the fact that I've got so much sunlight this year. I mean, at the moment, I mean, it's only sort of early morning, and it's already 30 degrees in the greenhouse. I've got all the windows and the door wide open, and even though you know, I've got this, and there's a reasonable amount of wind as well, the weather vanes are turning, so there is some wind, but it is still 30 degrees in here. So what I'm going to be doing in a minute is watering the ground just to try and cool it down a little bit in here. But I'm a little bit concerned about putting too much water in it at the moment, because I don't want the humidity to be too high, because I'm worried about blight and stuff like that on the tomatoes. But I think it's a combination. Again, it's the weather. I think it's a combination of really bright, hot weather and the fact that these you know, these pure cucumbers really don't get. I mean, they're quite exposed up here. You know, they're getting sunlight all day long. And I think basically that's causing the problem, because these branches that are sort of training along the bottom here, they seem to be quite green and nice. So I think that's probably the reason. Next one comes from Richard Siddenen. Thank you very much for your comment, Richard. And he was saying about the tomatoes, the ones that had sort of gone a bit funny, and the one that had rotted off. He was saying that it's not enough airflow and too much water. And Richard, I'm pretty sure you're right, to be honest with you. So what I'm going to be doing later on is pulling some of the lower branches off, just to try and sort of help the circulation of air in here. And I have cut down on the water. What I was doing is putting 2 water butts up this side, and I was watering can, sorry, up this side, and I was putting one down this one here. What I've actually done is halve the water now. So I'm putting sort of 1.5 up here, just over 1, and then I'm putting sort of half of one along here. And you know, the ground is still quite moist, and you know, so the tomatoes are most certainly got enough water. So I think possibly I was slightly over watering, but it's quite difficult, because at the moment I'm at work all day long, so I can't predict what the weather's going to be. And I think what's happened is I'm putting sort of enough water if it's going to be hot, but if it is a cooler day, we are still having a few cooler days here and there, I think that's when the water doesn't evaporate, and you know, it's possibly getting a little bit waterlogged. So but what I've done is I've cut down on the watering by about a half, or you know, perhaps slightly more than a half than what I was doing. And you know, the tomatoes do seem to be getting on a little bit better. They are, to be honest with you, this year I've kind of compared to pictures last year, and the tomato plants are nowhere near as good as last year. The tomato plants seem to be a lot more sort of spindly and not quite as thick. The stalks are kind of, you know, sort of this thick, where last year, you know, they were a good sort of, you know, they were over 1 inch thick. Some of the plants are okay, and surprisingly, the plants that are furthest that way seem to be doing the best. Now, these are the plants that Obviously the sun goes round behind it, you know, where the camera is now, the sun kind of goes round the back of it. So that's kind of facing south over there. And seemingly the plants that are closest to the sun, which should get the most amount of sunlight, are the ones that are doing the best. Except for this one here, which seems to be the odd one. But the others seem to be getting a little bit, you know, they don't seem to have done quite so well. So I don't know, I've got conflicting information really. Seemingly, you know, if it was too much sunlight, you would think that those ones on that side there would be suffering the most, but in fact it's actually the ones at the back. So I think it's probably heat, and I don't know, but I think there's a few factors at play here. But most certainly the tomatoes aren't as good as they were last year, and this side here has done a lot better than I expected it to. However, I have got quite a few branches which are kind of, or leaves that are kind of going yellow. So what I'm going to do is any sort of leaves that are slightly going yellow, and also any leaves from the bottom now, I'm going to start pulling off. Now these sort of tomatoes here, by this time last year, these had most certainly got to the ceiling of the greenhouse, and they were, you know, the amount of fruit, or you know the amount of tomatoes on each plant was considerably more than it is. I've got a good harvest, to be honest with you. I mean, we have got some really nice tomatoes, and the lower trusses of tomatoes are most certainly, there's a lot more than there was last year. Seemingly the tomatoes were kind of more sort of spread up the plant, where this year I've got a lot more at the bottom and sort of less at the top, and the plants don't seem to have grown quite as much. Now I am getting nice tomatoes. There's a good example. That's one that's this is actually off the plant that I chopped the top off. So you know, I've had a couple of nice tomatoes today off there, and there's another load down here, you know, sort of ripening. But if I can just quickly show you with the camera, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll finish the comments and I'll quickly just show you the bottom here, because some of the tomatoes are you know really nice and big, and they're all ripening off now. So I know that the banana skins are doing the job. But seemingly there's not a lot at the top, and there seems to be a lot. You know, they sort of be quite heavily laden at the bottom with fruit. But anyway, every year's different, as I've always said before. But this year, we're going to have a good harvest of tomatoes, but I think it's going to be not quite as good as last year, and the plants have most certainly grown differently. The next one comes from Marina Wilson. Thank you for your comment, and she was also saying that your cucumbers are too hot. So I think, yes, you're probably right. I don't know if it's heat or sunlight, but what I've most certainly done is I've opened the windows wide open. I am actually tempted to take a pane of glass out the back of the greenhouse, to be honest with you. I might do that later today. And I've had the door sort of wide open, but that's been wide open for quite a few weeks now. But what I'm trying to do is keep it as cool as possible in here. Most certainly we haven't got any blight this year. I mean, this time last year we had blight, and I think it's far too dry for blight, to be honest with you. Most certainly haven't got the conditions for that. So I don't really have too many concerns about sort of opening up a window and getting the airflow in here, just to help it out. But I think most certainly some of the comments with sort of Richard Sydenham and stuff like that, what I will do is take some of the branches off and let's get some more air flowing around and some more light onto the fruit. So I do think it's time to start pulling the some of the leaves off. Next one comes from Brian Humphrey and Tony's Allotment. I've already said they think there's a shortage of magnesium and manganese in the soil. So what I will be doing is, I haven't grown any Epsom salts at the moment. What I will be doing is getting some later today, and I'll water the cucumbers and that, just to be absolutely sure. But Brian said that he had a similar problem either early this year or last year, and he put some Epsom salts on his cucumbers, and they were considerably better. To be honest with you, the soil preparation in here was pretty much exactly the same as I always do. I always put, as I showed on early videos, I always put a load of chicken muck in, and I also put sort of compost and stuff like that. And I have been feeding the tomatoes with sort of comfrey juice, and also juice from the wormery as well. So I know that they should have pretty much everything that they need. However, sometimes you can have a certain shortage of certain things. So So what I will do is just give them a little bit, just to, you know, just be absolutely on the safe side. Next one comes from Mark Davidson. Thank you for your comment, Mark. And he was asking me about the compost. The compost that I got this year, well, I've got a couple of types, to be honest with you, and I can't find the bag. I've been trying to find a bag to show you the actual bag. They came in, I think it was 75, 80 litre bags, and the stuff was called Clover. And this is the stuff here. Now, this is some stuff that I've actually recycled. This was the stuff that I had in the guttering that I put the peas in. I don't know if you can see that, but it is really good stuff. Now, Mark, this you know, from a textural point of view, the clover is really good. I mean, it holds the water really well, and it's a really nice fibrous. You know, I mean, some of the other compost you get now, you get lumps of bloody wood in it and all sorts. This stuff is quite fine, and it is a really good compost. And for growing vegetables and stuff like that, where you've only got the vegetables in the pot for, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, you know, from a month to 6 weeks, it's absolutely superb for that. This stuff's ideal for growing vegetables. However, the one thing I will say is, if you read the text on the side of the bag, there's probably enough sort of fertiliser goodness in there to last about 2 months, which is kind of less than most other compost. So there is a bit of a compromise. From a textural point of view, it's quite possibly the best compost I've had in 10 years, to be honest with you. However, what you do need to do is, if you pot anything up that you're going to have in a pot for some time, like for example these hollyhocks that I've potted up in the last couple of weeks, I didn't use them for them. I actually used John Arthur Bowers, you know, the good quality John Arthur Bowers compost for that, because I know they're going to be in those pots for quite some time. If you were to use the Clover, what I would do is mix it up with some slow release fertiliser. You know, I mean, from an organic point of view, you know, you can put sort of hoof-horn and blood in there, and I would most certainly, you know, after the first couple of weeks of a plant being in there, I'd start to feed it with some, you know, some fertiliser of some kind, either, you know, from your wormery or your comfrey or whatever. But I would give it a little bit more, because I don't think there's going to be enough in there to sustain a plant, you know, sort of long term. But most certainly for vegetables where you've got them in a pot short term, you know, for a couple of months or so, this stuff is the best I could find, to be honest with you. And next year I will most certainly be using it. I've not seen it in many garden centres, to be honest with you. In fact, I haven't seen it on any garden centres. I found this in the Tamworth Allotment Society, and I did shop around, and to be honest with you, it wasn't down to the cost, it was down to the quality of it. And they had a bag of this open, so you could, you know, so you could see it. And I thought, my God, I can't believe how good this is, to be honest with you. And I at that, you know, then I bought 6 big bags of it, and I've used it all now, unfortunately. But I will be going back and getting some more of this. And it worked out. It was actually one of the cheaper ones, to be honest with you. But as I say, the price wasn't important for me with the compost. But I think I bought 6 bags of it for £20. It was basically 3 bags for £10. I think it was £4 a bag, or it was 3 for £10, and so I bought 6 bags for 20 quid. So and I think it was, you know, money really well spent, to be honest with you. You know, at the end of the day with gardening, you always start at the roots and work up, and this stuff is really ideal. I can't sing its praises enough. So if you do see Clover compost, it is really, really good. So get yourself a few bags of that if you can. The other thing Mark asked me about was the roofing paint. The roofing paint came from, you know, that I showed in the last video when I was doing the roof. That came from B&Q, and it's not the only company that you know, it's not the only outlet for it. It's I've seen it in a couple of places. I think Jewson's and Wicks have it as well. But the one bit of advice I will give you, I got a nice big sort of, I think it was a 5 litre tub, or sort of 3 litre tub, something like that. You know, it was a big tub. It goes a long way, to be honest with you. And in hindsight, what I'd have done is bought the smaller 1 litre tub, because I did all of that roof, all that I needed to do, with probably less than a litre. You know, it does go quite a long way. So I mean, I've got a nice big pot to last me, and you know, and I've sealed it all back up, and that'll be good for 4 years in the pot, according to the the blurb on the side. But as I say, it is really good stuff. The sort of the technological advances over the last few years in roofing. It has been quite superb. I mean, really, it was only kind of 5 years ago when we were using sort of bitumen-based stuff, and obviously with bitumen, it never really goes off. You get a hot day like this, it starts to melt and it'll move. With this stuff, it's basically like a rubbery-based compound. It's got quite a few polymers in there, so it acts like it's got quite a lot of elasticity in there. So if the roof moves, it'll stretch with it, and you paint it on, and that's it, basically done, and it's guaranteed for 10 years, and so it is really good stuff. But as I say, I got it from B&Q. It was reasonably expensive. That tub that you saw last week, which was I'm pretty sure it's 5 litres. That was £18, so it is reasonably expensive. But when you compare that to roofing felt, I mean, really the sort of the middle of the range, sort of 21 kilo rolls of roofing felt are about 21 quid. And then if you look at the heavier roofing felt, which is the really good quality stuff, which is the stuff I typically use, that's kind of £31 a roll now. So it is a reasonable investment if you're roofing felt if you put a new roofing felt on a roof. It can be quite expensive, and obviously what you want it to do is, because you're spending so much money, you want it to last, and you want to get your money's worth out of it. And if you've only got a little bits here and there that are sort of starting to go a bit rough, this paint can be put on, and it'll last you another sort of 4 or 5 years possibly, before you need to completely refelt the roof. So and it's a bloody sort easy as well. I mean, I was on the roof for about 10 minutes with that stuff last week, and I've sealed it all off. If I'd have done the roofing felt, I'd have potentially been up there for 3 or 4 days, putting new felt in, fetching the old off, putting new on, and all the rest of it. So I've saved myself a bit of time, and I've saved myself a load of money till I've kind of put it off till kind of next year, or possibly the year after. So it is really good stuff. There are various brands out there, and that one was kind of middle of the road. There are other brands, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but there was a more expensive one, and there was a cheaper one. That one was the kind of the cheaper one that got like a 10-year guarantee on it. So that's the one I kind of went for. But as I say, there are other makes out there that are probably as good, if not better, that have got 10-15 year guarantees on them. So all the best with your roofing. Okay, so we're going to do the old Epsom salt trick. So this is some Epsom salts I've got today, and this is come from the chemist. Cost about I think it's about £1.80 for a tub, and there's 200 grams in there. I'm not going to put too much in. I'm just putting probably about I don't know, just over a teaspoon into a watering can of water, and just put that in. I don't know quite how much to put in, to be honest with you, so I'm putting about that much. It possibly is a little bit too much. I'm just going to make a stirry stick and just give that a quick stir around, and put it on the cucumbers. Now in the Epsom salt, as you can see, the active ingredients is magnesium sulfate. So that's basically going to put some magnesium into the ground for us. So what I'm doing is just making sure that the water goes up the back where the cucumber plants are, so that there's plenty of magnesium around the roots. And I'll give it a really good stir to make sure that it's all sort of washed into the, sort of dissolved into the soil. Now there's 6 plants, I think I've pretty much got all 6 there. So hopefully I should see a bit of an improvement. Obviously the green leaves that we've got now should be sort of stain green. Any that have started to go yellow, I would imagine will stay yellow. I can't imagine they'll go green again. But hopefully that will spur the cucumbers on a little bit. Okay, so this is the bag for the multi-purpose compost from Clover that I've been using this year, and it's a healthy growth from nutrient enriched formula. Contains wetting agents and easy to water. It does contain peat, but this has not been harvested from areas of scientific interest. So it has got some peat within it. So I know it's possibly some people may sort of wince at that, to be honest with you, because obviously people try to not use the sort of compost that's got peat in it. However, it has been harvested from areas that's not of scientific interest, and I've found this really good compost this year. So that was the compost that I was talking about earlier. Right, so the last video I just very quickly showed you the lavender being potted up. Now this one here is one that I've grown from seed, and I actually checked in my notes, and it was actually 3 years ago when I put this seed in. Just take a reasonably sort of steady example. That was one that I took from a cutting at the beginning of this year. Spot the difference. If you're going to grow lavender, I would most certainly recommend that you take cuttings. I mean, if you look at the stalks on here, how sort of sturdy they are, and how well they've grown, and this looks quite sort of spindly in comparison. And the roots, I've just had this out of here just to check the roots, and the roots aren't particularly they're nowhere near as strong as the roots on here. So if you wanted to grow lavender, what I would suggest you do is take it from cuttings in the spring, exactly like I did. As soon as the young shoots start to grow, take the cuttings from there, and then by the end of the year you'll have plants that big, and probably by I would imagine by the end of next year they're going to be quite substantial plants. These are 3 years old. They're grown from seed. So, thank you for watching this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions that you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden.